I just got back from a trip to London, which most of you probably already knew about because I literally will not stop yapping about it. The purpose of the trip was to visit my husband Dan's family and also to see Taylor Swift. But while I was there, I could not help but admire all of the beautiful architecture. I feel like every simmer does this, where you go and visit a new place or you see a cool house and you're just non-stop taking pictures of build inspo for when you get back home. This happens to me every time I go on a trip because I go somewhere and I'm like in awe of all of the houses there and I have to try and build them in the game. So that's what we're gonna do today. We're gonna try to build some townhouses like what you might see in London. Important disclaimer, normal people don't live in stuff like this. These are like really, really fancy. Every city has this kind of thing. It's like the fancy brownstones in New York. And this is sort of the vibe that I'm talking about. So you'll see a few things that are similar across all of these buildings. Number one, they have basement window wells. So they kind of have this like iron fence in the front and like almost a hole in the ground. That's because they have basements and they want to have natural light in the basements. They're also all identical. It's like the same door, the same building face, and it's just a big wall of windows almost. Here's another angle of something similar. This one's a little bit of a different style, different colored brick, but it still has a lot of those same features, like the little metal balconies, really fancy metal work on the fences, these beautiful ornate window frames. This is kind of an up close picture of what the front doors might look like. And this one is more along the lines of kind of what I want to build. I like the idea of the white on the first floor and then the brick on the upper levels. And I guess if we're making a British inspired townhouse, I should call it the ground floor. They would call this the first floor, and that to me is the second floor. So it's kind of confusing, but I do like this color scheme. I also love how the roof looks on these buildings, but I think this part is kind of hard to achieve in The Sims because we can't really have like a shorter than short wall height. But hopefully that kind of gives you an idea of the inspo behind this build. I feel like Brightchester kind of has a similar vibe to this. They even tried to achieve it with these townhouse builds. Granted, maybe not very successfully, but I decided to build our house on this Pepper's Pub lot. It's actually where a bar normally is, but I bulldozed it and replaced it with a townhouse. I genuinely am obsessed with the look of the environment around this lot, like with the water down here and these cute little sitting areas. This is a really nice section of the world. And you can see there's a ton of townhouses around here as well, so it makes sense. It kind of fits in with the environment. It is a really small lot though. It's only 20 by 20, so that does kind of pose a couple problems. And then if you turn the camera too much, you might see these things and it's like, ooh, jump scare. Scary EA builds. But anyway, that's a broad introduction to our plans for today's video. And now I want to dive straight into the build and show you what I made. So like I was saying, it is a very small lot. So our build takes up the entire thing, but I did manage to fit 3 separate townhouses on this one. There's 3 skinny houses here and they're all completely identical. They're also 4 stories tall in the end because there's 3 stories above ground plus the basement level. So they're actually kind of big. They're not very wide, but they do have a lot of space and a lot of rooms inside. They're all 3 or 4 bedrooms. They've got 2 bathrooms. They've got like a formal office space in them. But I'll walk you through more of the floor plan once we get in there. Right now, you're gonna see me struggle a lot with the roof. I really did not know what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it. Right now, it's a little bit short. We're trying out a few different roof options. I was looking at platforms. I mean, it was all turning very, very weird. In an ideal world, I think I would like it if I could have like a half wall that is a full room, or like some way to vary the wall height even more than we can already. I want something a little bit shorter than a short wall height so I could put dormers on the top, but I couldn't make that work, so I just used a platform instead. So in the end, the roof isn't really ideal to me. It's not my favorite part, but I think the rest of it worked out really well. You can see right now I've already built the window wells, so I basically made a hole in the ground with access to the basement. You can't get in or out of the basement from there. It's literally just like an empty hole in the ground, but it's really nice because then we have basement windows, so those bedrooms downstairs still have natural light coming in. I thought about using like the high school years window so you can climb in and out of it, but I decided against it because it didn't really match the style of the build that well. I do like that high school years window a lot though. It's a very simple kind of plain window that just slides up, and if you didn't know, your Sims can literally climb in and out of it. It works like a door except it's shaped like a window, and there's a whole animation to climb through it. It's just kind of annoying to use because if they have a door, they'll use the door instead. But if there's no other option, they will default to climbing through the window. I wish that there was more windows like that almost, because it would be nice if we had some more variants, but I don't think you need to access this basement well, so I didn't bother with it too much. And one of the other cool parts is that in the back, there's quite a few balconies. I made the roof, the top floor, a little bit smaller, and I put a big balcony up there on the roof roof. I kind of liked the idea of having some sort of rooftop access. I like the idea of one small flat section that they can access. The problem is you can't put anything on that top floor where the platforms are because there's like a height limit, a build height limit that you can't build past in The Sims 4. So I was very stuck. So I used the 3rd floor for that instead of the 4th floor. And then they also have a small balcony patio thing on the 1st floor, or the ground floor, if you will. I did that because I kind of liked the idea of having a backyard or a back garden, except we didn't really have a lot of space for it. There's only a couple of tiles back there because the lot is so small, so I just made it a balcony instead. And I think that worked out pretty well. It's kind of weird to have a big garden space anyway, because it's supposed to be like a very densely packed city, so I think it's fine. And you can see I've kind of started picking up the color scheme also. So on the ground floor, we have that white patterned wallpaper that's actually from Discover University, along with the windows all from University. And then above that we have some City Living brick that I was using. The metal fences are actually from Lovestruck. Lovestruck has a really nice fence. It's got so many swatches of like all different beautiful metal patterns. There's like plain straight ones, there's some pretty decorative ones that are more ornate, like this one that I'm using. It's really good. And then I also use Strangerville doors in the front and then base game doors in the back. Strangerville has some of the best doors in the entire game, except they all have mail slots in them, like where there's a slot or like an opening in the door where you can put the mail through. But I don't really want to have that in the back because no one's delivering mail to the back door on this like fenced in balcony that you can't climb up and out of. And that's me being really dramatic about it because there's no actual mail deliveries through it. Like your Sims mail delivery person doesn't go up to the door, they go to the mailbox still. But it just looks weird to me to have the mail thing back there, so I use the base game doors instead. There was also a lot of discussion in my Twitch chat about whether or not we wanted to do half walls on these balconies and like have some sort of division between them, because right now there's not a lot of privacy on them. Like if your Sim lives here, their next door neighbor is going to be right next to them on the balcony outside. There's no like individual space really. There's no way to divide between them. So I thought about putting half walls, but they just kind of looked weird. And I also knew that if I was actually playing here, I wouldn't really mind if the other neighbor came outside because it's kind of fun to see them. In real life it would be annoying, but Sims don't get annoyed about privacy. They have no sense of privacy, so it doesn't actually really matter that much. And then the last final thing I should probably warn you about with this build is that I decided to build it with a bunch of platforms. So the entire house right now is on a very tall platform. I actually made it tall wall height on the ground floor, and then I built it up with a platform so it looks to be a little bit more like medium wall height. So that basically means that tall wall height's like this big, but then I built a platform up like that much so it leaves only medium wall height space left, if that makes sense. And I did that instead of putting a foundation because I wanted there to be one flat wall down into the basement window well. If you put a foundation, then there's like kind of a break in the wall where the foundation goes and it looks kind of weird. So I used the platforms instead. There's a lot of like pros and cons between platforms and foundations because they can be used for very similar purposes, but they both have their issues. Like platforms are kind of glitchy and stuff jumps to the wrong height sometimes. The foundations are a little bit uglier and have less swatch options. So it's just hard to decide what's best. In this case, I think that the platform was the right call. But if you see any weird shadows inside, like on the second floor, just don't worry about it. That is platforms at it again. And now we are finally moving inside to start thinking about floor plan. So I gave all 3 of these houses the exact same floor plan. I think that's realistic in a place like this. Sometimes when I'm doing Sims townhouses, I'll try to have them all have slightly more unique floor plans, but I don't think it's really necessary for a house like this because they were all built at the exact same time by the same person probably, so they would all have the same floor plan. That even happens in like modern day houses that are built new. They'll build like the same house 20 times in a new build area, and there just is one option for a floor plan that is better. So I used the same thing over and over again. The staircase was kind of hard to figure out because we had that basement and because the platform was so tall. The staircase is really long. I even actually tried to make the basement a little bit shorter. I raised the basement up too high on platforms because that way it would be like a little bit of a smaller staircase. And then I had to bring in a test sim. I brought Nancy over so I could see if she could actually walk in the basement still. Don't worry, it's fine. It's very short in the basement, but it still works. And I don't even think that's weird. I think it kind of makes sense to have really short ceilings in the basement. It's kind of like how you have shorter ceilings in an attic or something. Of course, we just can't have an attic in The Sims 4, so I did this instead. And then as far as the rest of the floor plan goes, we have like a front room that I turned into an office in this house. We've got a very small kitchen and an interior room, and then there's a living room in the way back. I didn't have a separate dining room. I thought about making the front room into a separate dining room, but I decided against it. And I did put a very small little like table and chairs breakfast nook kind of thing in the living room. Right now, we're just putting filler furniture. I promise I'm not keeping these colors. I'm not gonna use like backyard patio chairs in the dining room. I was just putting it there so I could visualize how much space there was and like visualize the floor plan a little bit better. It helps me to place things down just so I can see scale more easily and see like, does this actually fit the furniture I want it to? Will this work as the living room? So that's maybe a pro tip that I would suggest if you're trying to build and like struggling with layout. It really helps to place some rugs down even, because the rugs kind of help to see scale a little bit more easily. Place a couch, place a dining table, and just kind of see if it all works, and then you can go back and edit the furniture afterward. That's at least my method. Some people build in different orders, so you might have a better method for your own purposes, and that's fine too. But that's kind of the ground floor layout. Upstairs, we've got 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom, and then on the top floor, we've got 1 bedroom and 1 bathroom up there as well. It's a way bigger bedroom on the top floor. In my mind, I was kind of picturing that upstairs bedroom as being the primary bedroom, and then you might have 2 kids' bedrooms on the middle floor. But I actually ended up furnishing this house to be for college roommates because I knew that it was in the university world, and I very often build like family houses in The Sims. I don't as often build houses for roommates. So I built it for like 3 adults that might share the house together. The person on the top floor is thriving because the top floor has its own ensuite bathroom. It's got a walk-in closet, and it has the biggest bedroom, and it's got their own floor to themselves. But I was thinking about this a lot when I was building it because, again, this was like my dream house, okay? I was building this thinking like I would die to live here. I was decorating it with my own personal style. This almost feels like Lil Simsie's dream house to me, to be honest. I have always had an obsession with these style of buildings, and I lived in a townhouse for years, and I love living in a townhouse. Granted, I had some very annoying neighbors, but you get over it. It's fine. And my townhouse was not as cute as these, nor was it as big as these. I'm from Florida. We have ugly buildings here, and that's okay. I've accepted it. But anyway, I was kind of picturing myself living in this house, and I was like, the downstairs office is my office. The top floor is my bedroom. So that's why I have the biggest one with like the walk-in closet and stuff. But then it kind of got me thinking that if I were to actually live here, I don't think I would want to have my bedroom on the top floor. Like having to go all the way up and down 3 flights of stairs to get to my bedroom seems very annoying to me. It's not that bad in The Sims, obviously, although it is bad to have things that slow your Sims down. They already are like very annoying. So if they've got a lot of stairs to go through, especially if you have like a toddler or something, oh my God. Nightmare. Don't put the toddler's bedroom on the top floor. Toddlers belong on the ground floor if possible. But in this case, the middle floor is probably fine for the toddlers. But anyway, now we are finally starting to actually decorate. So I kind of did the kitchen layout. I put a washer and dryer in the kitchen. I ended up doing a stacked washer and dryer in there. I think I would have preferred if we had like a combo washer dryer just all in one machine, or maybe if there was a way to have a countertop on top of the washer and dryer, but it's fine. I made do. But I put that in the kitchen because of course it's a British inspired house. That might seem weird to a lot of Americans, but it's very normal there. And then we have the living room in the very back, and I am obsessed with the color scheme in this living room. I used a horse ranch rug, and that kind of became the deciding factor for the entire color scheme of the entire house. I mixed that horse ranch pattern rug with the growing together green fireplace. I put some built-in bookshelves, and then the big couch is actually from the Desert Luxe kit. It has some really nice like peachy colored swatches, so I was trying to use that peachy color. And then I remembered that Book Nook has like the perfect chair because it's a white chair with like a peachy colored accent pillow, so it fit the room perfectly. I also decided to use the Modern Luxe Kit paneling on all of the walls, and I really liked the idea of this, but in practice, because the whole house is on a foundation, it cuts off the bottom of the paneling. You have to remember that the wall is a tall wall height, right? So the wallpaper fills the entire wall, but there's a platform up until like right here. So the bottom of the wallpaper you can't see. So if I used a wall that had a baseboard or like any of those walls that have shorter tiles, just like that much tile or something, it gets covered by the entire platform. So that is a major downside of using platforms as well. It doesn't happen with foundations, but it does happen with platforms. I'm like basically pretending that the wall height is shorter than it is, so it gets kind of weird visually. But I don't think that it's that bad with the paneling in here. I'm just kind of choosing to ignore how the base of it looks. And it gets covered in a lot of areas. There's like curtains blocking it and bookshelves blocking it, so it's fine. I love how this living room turned out. I think that the styling on top of the bookshelves with like the little basket and the lamp is so cute. I'm seriously so jealous. I want to live here. How does it feel to live my dream? Even the flooring. I know I use that flooring all the time, but that like sort of herringbone pattern with the light wood is literally my favorite thing in the entire world. I am obsessed with that flooring. That's why I keep using it, because I'm obsessed with it. I did go back and forth a lot with what else to put in this room, like style-wise, art-wise. I thought about having a tea set in here, and I wasn't sure really where it should go or what it should look like. I was being very picky about like little tiny details in this room. I definitely didn't need to be that picky, but I was very invested in the house at this point because I realized that it was my actual dream house. And speaking of which, I should probably warn you that I did not decorate the other 2 townhouses in this video. First of all, it's my dream house, and my dream is to live here with no neighbors. That's a joke. I just felt like I wasn't sure if it was a good idea to furnish an entire lot with like 10 bedrooms total on my new PC, because I have some real bad news for you. I've been in like full-fledged crisis mode this week because I've had so many computer issues. You've probably heard me talk about, or like at least seen me mention, how my PC keeps dying in the middle of recordings and stuff. Well, basically for a few months, I was having this problem where my entire computer would freeze up and then it would completely crash. It would just turn itself off. It would blue screen. I was having so many problems. Well, it was happening kind of rarely. Then it was happening like once a week. Then it was like once a day. Then it was like twice a day. And I literally could not figure out why or what was happening. Me and Dan were like troubleshooting. We couldn't figure out any reason it was happening. And then it kind of stopped. So I was like, oh, it fixed itself. Maybe it's fine. And I stopped worrying about it. Well, cut to last weekend, last Saturday. I tried to stream in the morning on Saturday. I usually just stream on Twitch in the afternoon around like 4 o'clock Eastern time, but I was gonna do like a bonus stream that day because I hadn't been live for like a week because I was in England. I tried to go live that morning and my computer died 4 times in 20 minutes. And I'm not exaggerating. I went live at 9. At 9:05, my PC died. I finally came back around like 9:08, 9:09. It died again at 9:10. And it did it nonstop. Every time I got it rebooted and went live again, it just kept breaking. To the point where I was like, okay, I can't stream. I'm not doing anything. Like, we literally can't get anything done because my computer keeps dying. And then the last time it happened, it just wouldn't turn back on again. So my entire PC died on Saturday. Very stressful moment. I ended up having to buy like an emergency backup PC, like a pre-made PC from Best Buy, so that I could just have something to work on this week and until I can get my real computer fixed, because I have to send it off to get it repaired somehow, and hopefully it can be. It should just be like one part is broken in the PC and that's fine. I just can't, despite all of my efforts, cannot figure out what's causing it. Literally everything I've tried, you're gonna suggest things in the comments, I've tried them, it didn't work. So anyway, I have a new computer, but it's not a very good computer. And with all of the problems that I was having and with like how the game has been so laggy and crashy recently, I was like, I don't think I should try and furnish 3 full townhouses. I think we should start smaller maybe for our first big speed mill on the new computer, just in case. And it seemed to run this pretty fine, so I think we should be okay. Honestly, doing a residential rental is like the ultimate test for something like this, because residential rentals are so broken and so bugged. It's seriously so annoying because I want to love For Rent so much. It has potential to be like my favorite Sims pack of all time, and it kind of is for building. I love to build townhouses and fake apartments. It's like my favorite thing to do. I've been dreaming of this ability to do this for years in The Sims 4, so finally getting it is huge, and I seriously love building them. It's just kind of annoying because like the game gets laggy when you're trying to build on them and they're like set as units. It's basically unplayable. So I build the whole thing as a regular residential and then swap it to a rental as like the very last step because it gets so glitchy otherwise. It's just really unfortunate that it's so hard to work with them, especially because I like them so much. They are so fun. And that's why I keep building them despite it being kind of laggy in build mode. I don't think they're as bad in gameplay. It's just like the build mode. It's basically impossible to run it, at least on my computers. But computers plural because I've got a broken computer over there. Ugh. It's been a rough week with all of that happening. I spent all day Saturday trying to fix it, and like all week I keep encountering things that I had forgotten about with my new PC. Like for example, last night I streamed Among Us with some of my friends, and I had completely forgotten that it was gonna default all of my settings back from Among Us, because obviously I had to reinstall the whole game. And in Among Us, it's basically like a murder mystery game if you haven't seen it. I'm sure most of you have, but you play with other people online, and then like one person is the imposter and they're trying to kill people, and the rest of you are trying to figure out who the imposter is so that you can stop them. It's really fun. And there's like a room code because it's online, so you like share the code with your friends. Hey, you know, type this code in to join our lobby. Well, because I forgot that all of my settings defaulted back to normal. I leaked the code on stream, so we had to like make a new lobby and start over, and that's embarrassing. Like, my friends don't actually care, but there's like 13 people playing, right? So I have to come on the voice call and be like, hi everyone, I'm so sorry, but I did just leak the code to 3,000 people, my bad. You all have to leave now and start over. Because you can't have the code leak, because then strangers could join and that would be bad, because we're like talking in voice call and you just unfortunately can't trust the internet. You don't know what they're gonna come in and say, so we had to start over and do it again, and it was my fault. And also, I had a Zoom call on Monday. Well, 5 minutes before the call, I was like, oh my god, I don't even have Zoom installed on my PC. Because in my head, like, I had all my sim saves and stuff, so I was fine for the most part. So I kind of had like forgotten that I had a fresh PC with no programs on it. So I had to like mad rush reinstall Zoom and like set up my mic and camera settings really quick. It was fine, like I made it in time, it ended up being okay. But there's all these just little things that I keep forgetting about with the new computer that I have to like fix again. So obviously I'm very lucky to be in a position where I can like buy a new computer to work on this week and stuff, but it's just very stressful. Any kind of computer tech issues are very stressful. So the whole situation that caused it has been a lot of stress for me. So that's my life update. But anyway, we're working on the basement now. I'm kind of decorating the basement as a little games room. I really love doing this because there's some things that I never use in my Sims builds. I put that foosball table from Get Together in here, and I honestly don't even know when I last put that in a build. I also have a record player. We've got kind of like a cozy sofa. I put a bar down there. There's a storage room. And I used carpet in here because I was thinking I never put carpet anywhere, and real people's houses have carpet all over the place. Carpet is really nice. It's comfortable. It's fun to have. We were kind of joking about how a lot of British people love to have carpet in their houses. That's obviously an extreme exaggeration. A lot of people just in general want to have carpet in their houses, but like when I think about Dan's family or even like friends of mine, it's very common to like refit a bedroom with carpet and stuff over there. I'm from Florida, so a lot of our houses have tile everywhere. It's just different in different places, but I put carpet in the basement kind of as a nod to that. It'd be very normal to have carpet in a basement in America too. It's not weird, like, at all. Carpet is not inherently British. I'm not trying to say that. It's just kind of a fun nod to my friends' houses, okay? But we're finally moving upstairs to work on the bedrooms now, and this first bedroom belongs to, I mean, I guess I didn't really think about the type of sim that much, but I was imagining a group of 3 roommates that are all college students. So whoever lives here is a college student. I was kind of going for this like sunset colors vibe. I picked out the bed and the rug first, and then I was like, oh my god, lesbian flag colors, perfect. So I put the lesbian flag up there. They've got some cute posters. They've got a desk and everything. I really like those sheer curtains. Those curtains are from the high school years pack, and I think they're really, really nice. They also fit pretty well on these windows because the windows are a little bit lower than I would really like them to be. That's kind of the problem with these university windows because they have such fancy, ornate framing on the outside. On the inside, they end up being kind of low because there's just a lot happening at the top on the outside. So if it looks normal height from the outside, it looks kind of low on the inside, if that makes sense. But the curtains help to kind of balance that out and cover it. I also put some fairy lights and some pretty brick accent walls and stuff in this room. And I should warn you, you can probably already tell, I used a really upsetting number of packs in this build. I didn't mean to do that, but it just sort of happened. Like, when I put it on the gallery, I realized I probably used like every pack. And I'm not kidding. I was horrified by the number of packs on that gallery post. Sometimes I post them and I'm like, oh, how many packs did I use? And I click the button and it just keeps scrolling through pages of packs. Oh, I'm so sorry. It's always a balance because I think it's fun to do pack builds because I like to use everything and like show everything off and people think it's fun to see and you've got more options. But also I'm really conscious of the fact that most people do not have any packs, let alone all of the packs. So when I do that, I'm like, what have I done? It just makes me think of when I was a kid watching Sims YouTube and I had 0 packs for The Sims 3 for like the entire time I was playing it, and I would watch these like speed builds on YouTube and I would be so sad because I didn't have any packs or any, let alone any store content back then. So anyway, all that to say, I'm sorry about how many packs this build uses. I'm posting a limited pack build tomorrow, and I just built a base game library as well, so I'll post that soon on YouTube. I don't really know when. I'm trying to balance the like extreme pack content, more limited pack content, because I don't ever want to be doing too much. But this room that we're doing right now, my chat was kind of describing it as pastel goth. I don't know if it's that goth. It's kind of just pastel. I set out in the beginning to make it pastel goth because of the bed. It has like the skulls on it, but I don't really know how to make it seem seem more goth, because there's not that many items in the game that kind of fit that vibe. I wanted it to be, but I just don't think that it worked. I did put a little Bonehilda thing statue on top of the dresser, so that's a skull again, I guess, but otherwise there's not really that much that's happening in here that screams goth to me. I do like this sort of light blue, pink, and gray color scheme though. I think it worked out pretty well. I just wish that we had more stuff for it, you know? And now we are finally moving upstairs to the top floor for my bedroom, or for the primary bedroom, if you will. I guess we're pretending that roommates live here, so this person's just lucky. Whoever lives here, maybe like their parents bought the house and let their friends live in it with them, so they get the fanciest room because their parents are paying all the bills or something. But on this top floor, I put a little art studio space in the stair landing because I just cannot leave space unused in The Sims 4. I'm always thinking like, how can I make this space functional for gameplay? So I put an easel up there. It could very easily have nothing, it's tiny, but I put an easel anyway. And then in the bedroom, I decided to split it up a little bit and put a closet in here. I felt like it was kind of big and it had this like weird bump out space. So I put a closet there just to kind of fill it in. And then I made a fake vanity in it too. I thought about putting a real vanity, like the functional ones that come from like the Vintage Glamour kit or the Modern Luxe kit, but they were a little bit too big. And so I put this one instead. It's literally just a table that has makeup on it and it looks like a vanity, but there's no actual gameplay to it. And then I put the Dream Home Decorator clothing shelves in there too. So it looks like a proper walk-in closet. I don't really use closets in my Sims builds very often. I kind of feel like they're a waste of space most of the time, especially in really small houses like this. Like it maybe would be better suited to be turned into, I don't know, like a small mini office or like a pet room or something, but I just liked the look of the closet, so I did it anyway. And then in this bedroom, this person's lucky because they also have a balcony. So we've got our balcony door, I put curtains on it, and I kind of decorated it. At first I was going for this pink and green thing, but I felt like the rug was a little bit too vibrant, so I ended up swapping it out to be beige, which sounds bad, but it actually looks really nice with the bed. I used a horse ranch bed with this really beautiful floral pattern on it, and I felt like it all worked together so well. I was like seriously so pleased with how calming the color scheme of this room looked. I don't know if I personally would pick the beige, but it does look really nice in there. Like it turned out really pretty, it works together well. I did use the Jungle Adventure mirror so many times inside of this house. I don't know what has gotten into me, but I go through these phases with items in this game where I just use the same thing over and over and over again. And I've like rediscovered that mirror and I just keep putting it everywhere. I put it in the living room too, but it looks good. It's a nice big mirror. It's leaning against the wall. It's pretty. I used to use it so much back in like 2018 and then kind of forgot about it, but we're back. We're back in our Jungle Adventure era. In hindsight, I deleted the mirror, so I just went on a huge rant and it's not even in the room anymore. I did put a mirror above the bed and I did kind of a weird little trick that I'll probably show you again when I do the tour, but I wanted to explain it out loud to you real quick now too. So with the mirrors in The Sims 4, you can raise them up with move objects by pressing 9, but you can't lower them. You can lower pretty much anything else, but you can't lower mirrors. They're stuck at least their default height. This is gonna sound so weird, but sometimes if you're trying to place things a little bit more custom that try to default to different heights, you can place them without a wall there because it tries to slot to a wall, but without a wall it doesn't slot to anything. So to get around it, you can delete the wall, custom place it with move objects, and then put the wall back. So you have to like kind of imagine where the wall would be and pretend. But basically I did that with the mirror so it could hang up a little bit lower and fit better above the bed. And then on these little patios, I furnished the upstairs balcony with like a little fire pit and some cute seating and some fairy lights. And on the downstairs, I put a table and a grill. And that kind of covers it for the entire first house. After I finished furnishing, I was like, okay, it is time for us to break out the debug. And I started putting some debug landscaping. I didn't landscape the lot too much because it's very small and there isn't a ton of space, but I did put some trees and little tree cages. The bonus of those being debug is that I can kind of scoot them off the lot. So there's not really any room for them, but I put them like basically half off the lot and they still fit there. I also put a dumpster on the side, I put a mailbox on the side, and then I ended up putting a mural on the side of the building too, just so there's like a thing for your Sims to do. There's no windows on the side of the building because in my mind, I thought maybe we could pretend that there was more houses there down the side, but also the windows didn't really look very good from the interior, so I just didn't use them. It might seem weird to you if you've ever seen a house like this in real life, but it's very common. I get a lot of comments in my Twitch chat that are like, oh my god, there's too many windows on this building because of the front. But that's just normal. I showed you the pictures too. It happens with any kind of townhouse really because there's no windows on the side, so they have to like really overdo it in the front and the back to make sure you have as much natural light as possible. It might look weird at first, but I think once the whole thing came together, it looks a little bit better. But I can acknowledge that like at first glance when I was first was putting them in and I hadn't decorated it yet, it was probably kind of scary with just a wall of windows everywhere. But anyway, we have finally finished the build. What I want to do now is pop back into the game and show you a tour of the finished product. As a reminder, I built it on this Pepper's Pub lot in Brightchester, and I actually put it on the gallery twice. I put it up once as a regular residential, and then I also uploaded it as a residential rental with the apartment units assigned. I did that because if you don't have for rent, you literally cannot download residential rentals. It won't let you, but you can download regular residentials. So I put it up both times, and this is what I meant by how many packs I used. Oh my god. And it cost like 168,000 simoleons. So that's kind of horrible, but this is what it looks like. I kind of tried to pretend that other people live in the other units, so I put like some hopscotch and some plants and stuff, but this one is the unit that we live in. On the outside, I put a little bike rack down here on the far side. We have the dumpster, and then in the back, we've got all of our little balconies and stuff. This side has the mailboxes and also that mural I was talking about. And I just want to show you kind of what I meant with the platforms and the half walls. So this thing right here is a platform. It's a pretty high platform. It's like 5 steps up. And I did that instead of putting a foundation because if I had a foundation, it's going to delete the stairs. But if I had a foundation, we would have like this weird gap in between the walls where the foundation goes, and I just didn't really like how that looks. I think it looks really nice to have one big flat wall for the windows, so I kept it like this with platforms instead. When you first come into the house, it's a very tiny little entranceway. So we've got a mirror, we've got like a little rug, I put light switches and like a hanging plant. I did test this, your sim can still walk past that. I was worried about it, but it does work still. And then around the side, you can get into the basement from down here. There's a staircase kind of stacked to access the basement. We've got like a bookshelf and the trash can and a thermostat, so all that useful stuff in here. The first room is the office. I used the bookshelves from the crystal pack and I was obsessed with this. I just think this bookshelf is so nice with the ladder and stuff. And then I kind of filled it in with some little clutter everywhere. I put a fancy computer because I was pretending that it was my office. I also thought about putting like a cat tree in here, but I don't like how any of the cat trees look in this game. I feel like every time I try and put one, I like it in theory, but then it's just ugly. We need more. We need better cat trees. So down the hallway a bit further, we've got the kitchen. I put like a sink and all the necessary stuff. I also put a kettle and then the washer and dryer. I really like how this thing looks. Honestly, Home Chef Hustle is one of my favorite Sims 4 packs. It has some of the best furniture. Any kitchen set is good, but I really like this kitchen set, so I used it in here. And then a bit further down, I put this tea set in here. So I put in like a little tea cart. We've got a small little dining table, and then we have my favorite part, the living room. This is the back of the house. They've got a grill and a small table. I actually don't think they can even access this chair, so it's mostly just there for looks, but I think it's pretty. They can access the other two. It's just the third one in the corner that I'm not so sure about. And then when you go downstairs into the basement, this is that little like closet that I was talking about. I put the decor box and a shelf and things like that, even a vacuum in here. We also have a bar that I put some little board games on top of. We've got the record player. Oh, I made that clip, didn't I? Oops. Well, this record is broken. The corner of it is cut off, apparently. But anyway, there's a record player, a little cozy place to sit, and then also foosball. Oh, and there's a dartboard. So lots of games in this basement. This is just nothing. That's just so that you can have windows into the room, but I think that's fine. I think it still works. You don't need to actually get out there. I thought about putting a ladder or something to get up from it, but it just didn't look very good. So I left it blank and only had windows. And then upstairs, we've got a small hallway, and these are the 2 bedrooms. We've got the fake pastel goth one and then the sunset themed one. And they also have a bathroom down here. And then upstairs again, we have my bedroom. So I have, I guess, an easel. Never been an artist, but now I am. So I've got an easel. I've got my bedroom and my fireplace, my ensuite bathroom, my walk-in closet with like clothing and my fancy vanity, and then also my patio with a fire pit and also a telescope. Personally, in real life, I wouldn't want a fire pit because I'm so scared of fire, but I have one if I want it in The Sims, I guess. And that is the fully finished build. So it's pretty big. I'm really happy with how it turned out. It was fun for me to build. Hopefully you enjoyed this one. And I think on that note, I will stop talking and I will end this video right here. If you like this kind of thing, I do a lot of building over on my Twitch channel. My name is just lilsimsie on Twitch. So I'll link that down below. And I'm gonna catch you all tomorrow. Okay, bye everybody. Oh my god, I'm literally obsessed with these kind of houses. I feel like I'm daydreaming right now about wanting to live in a London townhouse. I need to calm down.